There was a morning, you were maybe 9 years old, when your dad came downstairs later than usual. He didn't say anything at breakfast. He just sat there, staring at something that wasn't in the room. You didn't know it then, but something had just shifted. Not in your house. Not in your family. In the world. You found out what it was 3 weeks later. When everyone else did. On the news. This is the life of the son of Sam Altman. The man building the most powerful technology in human history. And the man someone tried to kill last week. You didn't choose this. But you were born into it. And once you understand what that means, you can't unknow it. On the surface, your childhood looks like a dream. San Francisco. Russian Hill. A house that looks out over the bay. Weekends in Napa. A father who is, by every visible measure, one of the most important people alive. Your first memories are probably normal ones. Toys. Bedtime stories. The smell of dinner. Normal things. But underneath, something is always slightly elevated. The security outside the house isn't like your friends' houses. The cars are different. The conversations stop when you walk in the room. And the adults around you, they have a certain way of looking at you. Not unkindly. Just carefully. You start school. You make friends. And for a while it's fine. You're just a kid. But then one of your classmates Googles your dad. And they come back the next day looking at you differently. Not mean. Not exactly. Just different. You start to notice it everywhere. Teachers who are warmer to you than to other kids. Parents at pickup who introduce themselves a little too eagerly. Friends who ask questions that feel less like curiosity and more like research. The moment they hear who your father is, everything changes. You're 6 years old and you're already learning that people see the name before they see you. And you don't have a word for that yet. But you feel it. Your father's world is not like other fathers' worlds. When you're old enough to pay attention, really pay attention, you start catching fragments. A name mentioned at dinner that shows up in headlines 2 months later. A word you don't recognize, and when you ask what it means, the room gets quiet. A meeting your dad has to fly to suddenly, on a Sunday, that he can't talk about. This is where things start to feel off. Other kids' dads have jobs. Your dad has decisions. Decisions that, you slowly understand, involve things like whether to release something to the public or wait. Who gets access to what, and when. What the word safe actually means when it comes to technology that has never existed before. You're not in those meetings. But you live in the house where the person who runs those meetings comes home at night. And sometimes he doesn't sleep. You start reading things. Articles. Threads. Comments. And you realize that what the public thinks is happening and what you've heard at home aren't always the same story. But this is the part no one outside ever sees. The version of your father that exists online. The one on magazine covers, the one testifying before Congress. That person is real. But he's not the whole picture. You know things that don't fit the headlines. Small things. Human things. Doubts that never go public. Worries he carries quietly. A heaviness that shows up in certain silences. And you're 10, 11, 12 years old, and you're holding all of this. Nowhere to put it. No one who would understand. School is its own kind of pressure. There's an expectation, unspoken, never said directly, that you are brilliant. That genius is in the bloodline. That you probably already know more than your teacher. What nobody tells you is how exhausting it is to live inside someone else's expectation of you. When you struggle with something, and you do, because you're a child, and children struggle, there's no clean way to talk about it. Because to struggle feels like a betrayal of the image. His image. Your image. The one nobody asked you to carry, but you carry anyway. What if you're not what everyone thinks you are? And then there's the question of friendship. Real friendship. The kind where someone knows you because of you. Not because of your last name. Not because of a connection they want. Not because being close to you gets them something. How do you test that? How do you ever really know? You start holding people at a slight distance. Not because you want to, because you've learned that you have to. And slowly, without deciding to, you become a certain kind of person. Watchful, private, careful, older, in certain ways, than your age. Your grandfather died when your father was in the middle of all of it. The rise, the pressure, the spotlight. You hear how much that broke something in him. How he had to keep moving even while he was in pieces. And you file that away. Another thing you know that you don't have anywhere to put. You're old enough now to sit at the table and understand what's being talked about. And what's being talked about, sometimes, is this. What happens to the people who lose their jobs because of what we built? How much risk is acceptable when the thing you're risking is the future? If something goes wrong, really wrong, who is responsible? These aren't hypothetical conversations. They're not think pieces or dinner party debates. They're decisions. With timelines. With names attached. This is where the story splits. Because on one side, you have a father who genuinely believes, you've seen it, you know it's real, that what he's building could be the most beneficial thing in human history. Medicine. Poverty. Climate. Disease. Knowledge. The case is not nothing. And on the other side, you've read the document. The one the man carried when he came to your house with fire. The one that talked about humanity's impending extinction. The one with your father's name at the top. And somewhere between those two things, the hope and the fear, you are trying to figure out what you actually believe. Not what your family believes. Not what the headlines say. What you believe. At an age when most kids are just trying to figure out what they want for lunch. There's a moment, and you can probably pinpoint it, when you stop seeing your father as just your father. And you start seeing him as something else. A force. An argument. A bet. A human being making history-scale decisions in real time, with incomplete information, under constant pressure, in public. And you realize, this is what you live inside. Not a house. Not a family. A turning point in the history of civilization. You don't just live in the future, you watch it being decided. Most people will experience what's coming the way you experience weather. It arrives. It changes things. They adapt. You've been watching the forecast. For years. In private. In the room where the forecast gets made. And you can't share it. You can't warn anyone. You can't even fully process it yourself. Because you're not the decision maker. You're just close to one. And that is its own very specific kind of loneliness. So what do you do with all of it? Do you step into the legacy? Go to the right schools, learn the right things, take the right meetings, and eventually become another name in this story? Or do you walk away from it? Build something quiet. Something yours. Something that has nothing to do with AI, or power, or the weight of a last name that half the world associates with either salvation or catastrophe. Neither option feels clean. If you follow the path, you didn't choose it. You were born onto it. And every achievement will always live inside the question, would this have happened without the name? If you walk away, you leave behind something real. Something that matters. And you carry, forever, the knowledge that you could have been part of it. This is the trap. Not a cruel one. Not an unfair one. Just the specific, invisible trap of being born to someone consequential. You can't choose what you were born into. You can only choose what you do next. And you're still young enough that next hasn't happened yet. But it's coming. You can feel it. The way you can feel a lot of things, these days. Earlier than you should. Your father was born in Chicago in 1985. His father sold real estate. His mother was a doctor. A normal family. A quiet life. And then, slowly, not. He got a computer at 8 years old. Dropped out of Stanford at 19. Built something in a garage. Lost it. Built something bigger. Lost that too. Got it back. And kept going. Because that's what people like him do. They keep going. Whatever the cost. Whatever comes next. You were born in February 2025. You are 1 year old. You have not yet had a single thought that you can form into a sentence. But in a few years, you will. And when you do, you will grow up in a world that was designed, in part, in your house, by your father. While you were sleeping. You know what's coming. You just don't know it yet.